In this episode, I'm going to show you 5 ways that you can engage your audience through content if you're an entrepreneur or small business owner. First thing that you should do is make sure that all your content includes some type of video or some type of image, right? These are ways that easily catch the eye. Think about when you're scrolling on your favorite social media platform, right? When you're scrolling, if you see a funny video or something that just jumps out at you with in a picture or something, it catches your eye. It causes you to stop scrolling and focus on the post that is in front of you. Versus when you see a lot of posts that just have lots of text, lots of writing, and the audience has to read this long novel length post, that can be a little dry, right? An audience might start reading that post, and if it's super long halfway through, if it's not engaging enough, they might keep scrolling, they might leave past it. So one form or one rule of thumb would be to add some type of video or image so that way, again, it catches your audience's eye. For number two, you should you should use some type of storytelling in your posts. So just like I mentioned before, you might be an excellent writer and you'd love to write down all types of things. Okay, you love to post stories and write blogs and things. This is perfect, especially if you use some type of story to engage your audience, right? Using storytelling is very powerful, right? Because it helps engage your audience. So one way that you can do as far as combining number one and number two is maybe you have a video of you telling a story about why you came into business in the first place and how you help others with the solution that you have, right? You want to showcase how what you have to offer is valuable, and you're going to do that through storytelling. So I've talked about this before in other videos, but if you sit down and focus on your brand identity, figure out what your purpose, your mission is for your business, you will be able to reflect and figure out what actually got you to this point, and then you can use that as your story to tell to engage with your audience, right? So everybody's story is different. So tap into yours and make sure that you're able to tell your story so that others can understand, engage, and connect with you. Number 3 on the list is when you are posting content, you want to leave some type of engaging question that your audience can respond to, right? So I would leave an open-ended question, something that they can go in depth when they're responding. You don't want to ask a question that leads to a dead end. For example, did you eat breakfast this morning? And the person will say yes or no. And then that's the end of the conversation, right? Versus the question you might ask is, what did you have for breakfast this morning? And then now the audience or the person that you're talking to can say, well, I had this and this and that, this and that and this and that. They can tell you everything that they had in detail because you're leaving the question open enough for them to give you their own little story, their own details, that's a little bit more descriptive for you versus, and then from, if by using open-ended questions, you're able to get more information from your audience and even potentially figure out who is the best fit for some of the offers that you have, right? When you ask close-ended questions, which usually ends with a yes or a no or some type of answer and then it's done, right? You don't really get a lot of engagement. You don't really get a lot of conversation back and forth. So your goal is to ask questions that can spark a conversation, that you can go back and forth with the person reading it and responding, and hopefully have some type of communication back and forth so that they can better get to know you, right? The next thing on the list is when you do have these posts, make sure that you are responding to everybody who reply to when you do have these posts and you do ask these open-ended questions, or you're posting stories, or you're posting videos or images, make sure that you do comment on everybody who replies to your post, right? If you see somebody leave a comment underneath, make sure you reply to them, okay? Make sure that you are responding to everybody, because then they'll feel like you're paying attention, right? You are responding to what they have to say. They're going to feel good, and they're probably going to continue the conversation if you continue to engage with them, right? So if they leave a response, maybe that's where you're asking that open-ended question. Oh, I love that response. Can you tell me a little bit more about your experience? And then they'll be able to tell you a little bit more, right? You're asking an open-ended question to continue the conversation. And this is a very useful tactic when you want to boost your audience engagement. The fifth tip that I have for you is make sure that you are tagging others in the conversation. So if you have a post, and we were talking about, you're telling a story, you're adding visuals, you're leaving open-ended questions, and then you're also replying to comments, right? When you are replying to these comments and you're getting this back and forth, if you see somebody else has liked that post, go ahead and tag them in the responses, in the comments, right? It's very engaging to include others in a conversation. Think of like a social gathering. You have the people in the corner, they're talking amongst themselves, and then you see that one person over there, they're kind of lingering around by the punch bowl. You would want to pull them over and say, hey, what's up? Why don't you come join us? Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. It's the same thing on social media. You want to tag others that you see who have, they might have answered or responded, but now you can include them in the conversation and make them feel like they're a part of what's going on. Does that make sense? By doing this, you are boosting your engagement with not just the people who are responding, but now you are tapping into the ones that might have just liked it, or, might have just left a thumbs up kind of thing. So this is a very useful tactic, and just reaching a couple more people when you are posting your content on social media. All right, friends, I hope this episode helped you and brought you some value. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. I truly appreciate you, friends. All right, till next time, stay bright, stay beautiful, and keep on smiling. Later, Gator. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, then like and subscribe to support Brand Impact 365 with LaMorvielle. And if you are struggling with your brand impact, then watch the next video.